Welcome to Great Food. I have with me Chef Lynn Pritchard from Table 128, one of my personal favorite restaurants in town. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you, Winnie.
It's great to have you. Now, I understand you're cooking pork for us today.
We are, absolutely.
And that's great because, you know, when I worked in fine dining quite a few years ago when I was waiting tables at a really lovely fine dining restaurant, we could not keep pork on the menu. People just weren't interested in ordering it. They always wanted steak. They'd rather have chicken or seafood or shrimp. Pork was just not a seller. That's changing. Why is that?
You know, there's been this kind of new genesis of pork with the return of all the heritage breeds, people being concerned about what that pork is being fed, how it's being prepared. All of those things have just kind of reached a tempest point where people are excited about pork again. Obviously, Bacon Fest and everything that, you know, the Eck houses are doing with La Quercia. I mean, it's just fantastic product to work with.
That's great. So, I mean, the pork has changed, so people are liking it more.
Yes.
So, right, great. So, what do we got here?
Well, we're actually sweating some aromatics. There's garlic, fennel, and some shallots. And I'm putting a little bit of an interesting spin on pork. I'm not just serving pork, I'm actually serving pork with clams.
Oh.
So you kind of get, you know, all the best qualities of the pork that's been finished on chestnuts and raised outside, and then you get the mineral saltiness, the salinity from the clams. I think it's a great combination.
So it's kind of a surf and turf in a way.
In its own way.
In its own way. I love it. That's great, and I can smell that right away, you know, that fennel, the licorice-ness, and, you know, you've got your, oh my goodness, and the clams.
These are some beautiful cherry sun clams. These are East Coast right now, which finally the weather has broken. We're starting to get that great shellfish culture going again from the East Coast. We're going to hit that with a little bit of white wine.
I'm curious, now, how do you come up with dishes like this? I mean, what makes you say, pork, clams, let's do it?
Well, again, it's going back to that combination of taking great products from the land, taking great products from the sea. You're getting the best of both worlds. The meatiness, kind of the mild gaminess from the pork. We're reinforcing a lot of the same flavors between pork and the clams itself. And in a different twist, we're actually using celery root as well, which is this kind of ugly, bulbous,
knobby little thing.
Exactly,
right.
Not a whole lot of people know really what to do with it, but it's a fantastic vegetable and tuber to use.
Well, in France, they have celery remoulade, which I'm sure you know about, which is basically a coleslaw but made out of celery root.
Right.
And it's amazing. And one thing I learned about celery root that I didn't know before is that it's not just the root of your average celery.
No, it's a whole separate cultivar.
And I didn't know that. And so anyway, if you go looking for it, you can always find it usually at the farmer's market, and you can find it in supermarkets. But you are looking specifically for celery root, right?
Correct. And it's delicious. It has the best parts of the celery without, and this is my little tick as a chef, I don't like things that go crunch in my head.
Really?
So this is the best part of celery for me.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So we've obviously cleaned this of its jacket. We've pureed it after having been poached. We've added a little bit of butter and cream, and it's acting as our starch, but it's actually a vegetable.
Interesting, sure, yeah, and it's got such a great flavor. Whenever I serve a celery root puree, it's one of those things people think, oh, that looks like mashed potatoes, and then they start eating it, and they're going, wow, what did you do to these mashed potatoes? I said, well, first of all, it's not mashed potatoes.
Right. It's a little bit of trompe l'oeil on the plate.
Yeah.
It's taking that spin on mashed potatoes, but kind of removing all the things that we're supposed to be counting and not eating so much of.
Yes, exactly. Great.
So we're going to let these clams steam open for a little bit, and I'm actually going to put the pork loin, which I have grilled, to about a medium rare. It's going to come back up to temp and finish at about medium, which I think is the best temperature to serve that pork at. And we're actually going to use some of those same vegetables. Again, the idea of reinforcing flavors on a plate is very important and very central to my philosophy. So we're using some of the fennel fronds, some of the celery leaves that we're just going to be tossing in a little bit of olive oil with some finishing salt. And I just got back not too recently from Portland, and they have this fantastic salt, and you and I have talked a little bit about salt in the past. Salt is incredibly important to what we do as chefs, and incredibly important to what we do in the kitchen at home. These are these beautiful large flake salt harvested directly from the Pacific. It is the best salt that I've ever worked with.
It is beautiful. It's like a little finishing salt. You're not
Right.
going to throw it in the cooking
No,
liquid.
I won't.
Right, you're definitely going to put it in. Now, where do you get something like this? This is
That I got directly
Oregon.
from, I did bring that back from Oregon, but that is available online from Jacobson's.
Oh, that's great. I love finishing salts like that.
They're just fantastic, and there's no way to capture and enhance a flavor better than a truly extraordinary finishing salt like that.
That's great. So, I'm smelling all of this. It smells so good.
The clams are just about ready to give way. We're going to go ahead and start plating up here. Move some of these items out.
Here's your plate. I'll be your little sous chef for a second.
I appreciate
Whee!
that.
So I had dinner at Table 128. Saturday nights are really great nights to go to Table 128 because you do this chef's table or this chef's dinner. It's a prix fixe dinner, 3 courses, $38, very reasonably priced, and you always do something a little on the edge. I had guinea fowl the other night,
Yes.
and it was excellent. And then another night I had elk chops, and I mean, you just have these, just a little bit out there for people who kind of wanted to try something different. So, what's coming up?
You know what? I'm in the planning stages of this week as well as next week's.
But what are some of the other things that you have, that just push the
We've done
envelope?
pheasant, we've done rabbit ribeye, we've done, obviously you've had the guinea and the elk, duck, lots and lots of game meat, which has really been inspiring me and kind of pushing my ideas and the staff in the kitchen through the winter. But of course that's going to be kind of lightening up as we're now in
Sure.
spring and heading into summer before long.
Exactly. So that's great. So, but for those of you who are thinking like, I don't do elk, I don't do pheasant, I don't do that. What are some of the, sort of more mainstays, the popular things on your menu that people come in for that maybe aren't as adventurous?
Well, we certainly have the chicken, which is kind of the go-to safety zone for everybody. But of course, I like to put my little spin on that.
Sure.
And, we butcher the whole hens in house, and use the carcasses for stocks and soups and everything else. We have burgers. We do have steak on the menu. We have scallops and a beautiful wild Loch Duart salmon right now on the menu. That's just extraordinary.
Oh, I bet. That's great. So let's plate this up and get a look at what this is going to be.
Right.
And I'm so interested that you have basically, cooked the chop and then sort of finished it off in a braising liquid. I think you can't do that with any ordinary pork. It might dry out.
That's a really great point.
Because I would, I've never tried to do that, but I would think that maybe you just have this great pork that really works with.
Well, I do buy pork from a local co-op, Burkwood Farms. It's entirely organic. It's entirely hormone and antibiotic free. Again, finished on chestnuts, free range, all of those hot buttons in food right now.
Right.
It's really amazing. And kind of one of my secrets, which is about not to be a secret, is the fact that all white meats I brine.
Okay.
Whether it be a wet brine or a dry brine.
That would make a huge difference.
Yes.
It keeps that moisture in. So you've got your prettiness added. Plus, you're like you say, I love the way you reinforce the flavors of the fennel. The fennel root with the fennel frond, the celery root with the celery leaves. I think that's awesome.
And it's just fun. I mean, most people would discard this, but there is so much flavor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
It's
obviously, all of
delicious.
the vitamins. It's super high in vitamin K, vitamin B. Just really a fun product and fun to play with. The sauce is just a very, very simple apple cider reduction, which we've fortified with some beautiful hard spices from Allspice, cloves, a little bit of Szechuan pepper, star anise, just some beautiful
And I can
things.
smell all of those things along with some really good pork. So thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
in. And this looks fantastic. So this is on your menu now for a
It
while?
is on the menu, yes.
Great. Come in and get it. It looks great. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.